Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're brand new here, my name is Stav, and this is my channel, She Equips Herself, and this is my husband, Mac, who's joining us today. We're going to be talking about how to match your home defense gun and your concealed carry gun. If you've been watching my videos recently, or you follow me on Instagram or any other social media platforms, you might have noticed that I've been carrying the Glock 42 a lot more than my shield, which is what I used to show in pretty much every single video. And a lot of you have been asking about whether or not I've officially switched and what's going on with that. So we're just going to explain some of that today too.
If you're kind of new here, I've been a firearms instructor for like 25, 26 years, and in that time I have had the opportunity to train military, police, and civilians, and I get asked questions a lot. And a question that just came up recently that kind of spawned this whole idea was, people will ask me what type of gun they should buy. And usually my questions now, I need to figure out what they want. I ask them, well, is this a handgun or a long gun? And they usually, handguns are more popular. So then I say, is this a concealed carry firearm? Something you want to just have for the range because you enjoy shooting, or is this a home defense weapon? And that's where the conversation goes, because they're not always the same. They can be the same, but they're not always the same. And I find that a lot of people end up wanting two separate firearms once we have a detailed conversation. They want a large, relatively large pistol as a home defense weapon, and then they want a very small and lightweight pistol for concealed carry. Things matching up to the best of your ability is really important. I'm gonna just kind of show you in the back here. I'm a hockey player. I've been playing hockey my whole life, and this just kind of, I always like to use sports to explain things because people understand sports pretty well. So recently I broke a hockey stick, and I had to get a new stick, and I could not find the exact stick that I was playing with. So I have to change sticks. Now, couple things I want to show you. This is called the lie of the stick, all right? The way the angle comes up the stick and then goes over, that's the lie. So if you look at these two sticks, you could see that they are not the same lie. They are close. They're actually the same on paper, but they're not the same in real life. There we go, that's a perfect way. Okay, so I'm matching up these sticks all the way through. And you can see that the lie of the stick, the way that the angle of the blade is attached to the shaft of the stick, is different. You can see that there's two separate sticks there. Another thing you should see is that one stick is slightly longer than the other by about 2 fingers, 2.5 fingers. That makes a huge difference when playing hockey. If I was just going out and I was just skating and not really playing a game, just playing stick time or just going out there, it wouldn't make that much of a difference. But during a game where time is compressed, people are trying to get the puck from you, and things have to happen quickly, you notice those little changes dramatically. We're from New England, so if you can remember a few years back, we had this thing called Deflategate, which is when Tom Brady allegedly may have had the footballs deliberately deflated to a certain poundage because that's what felt best in his hand. To a non-quarterback or a non-football player, a few extra pounds in a football of air would be not noticeable at all. But to someone who's that high level of an athlete, they notice every little micro difference. Under the stress of a home invasion or the stress of a concealed carry self-defense situation, stress is amplified dramatically. And anything you kind of can screw up, you generally will screw up. So matching your home defense weapon and your concealed carry weapon is a really, really good idea. And that's how we came to this. Stav is a giant fan of the Glock 34. It's one of her absolute favorite firearms. She loves shooting it. I loved shooting it. It started as a Glock 35 and I turned it into a Glock 34, but it was originally my SWAT firearm many, many years ago. And when I transitioned from a 40 to a 45, a whole bunch of things, I turned it into a 9mm and I used it as a competition gun for years. And it won me guns and it won me some things. So it was a great gun for me, and she loved it for home defense. So as the more and more she shot that, the more and more she appreciated that gun, and then she was carrying a Smith & Wesson shield. it's a lot different. Things that you really want to pay attention to when you're trying to compare a home defense firearm and a concealed carry firearm. There's two major things that I think you cannot screw with. You have to really match these up well. And that's the trigger. And what I mean by that is the weight of the trigger, the distance the trigger travels, and the reset of the trigger. Those need to be really close. Any one of those three things, if they're significantly different from your concealed carry firearm to your home defense firearm, you risk a lot of screw up right there. So you want the trigger to travel about the same distance at the same weight, and then after the shot goes off, for you to reset the trigger and shoot again, you want that reset to be almost the same as well, which is the amount of weight it's pushing out and the distance it's pushing out, and how you can feel that with your finger. So sticking with the same type of firearm, meaning if you're a Smith & Wesson person, your home defense weapon is Smith & Wesson, your concealed carry weapon is Smith & Wesson. We just happen to be right now Glock people, I guess. That could change. I carry a Smith & Wesson on duty. I love my Smith & Wesson on duty, but for the home and for what we seem to carry off duty right now, this is our matchup. So we have two Glock 34s. Those are our two home defense weapons. They match up almost perfectly with triggers, with grip angles, with the way the flashlights work. The sights, we actually use the same sights on our home defense weapon and our concealed carry firearms. So we use the Trijicon HD XR. The XR, I'm not certain it stands for this, but to me it's extra room. It's a slightly smaller front sight, so there's a little extra room on the right and the left when you're looking at your front sight, and I believe that makes you the capability of getting more accurate. And right now we're both carrying Glock 42s as concealed carry firearms. So we're matching our concealed carry firearms to our home defense firearms. And another thing that's really important, other than trigger, is the grip angle. The angle of the grip, because under a high stress situation, you might not use sights at all. You might not even know there's sights on your gun. So having the same angle and pointability from one firearm to the next is super important. If you have to pause and reference your sights under an extremely high stress situation, that might not give you the win. You might not win that fight. You can see that these two grip angles are basically exactly the same, all right, as far as this angle to the barrel. So when you just pick up the firearm and point it, they point very, very similarly. The point of aim is very, very similar in my hand. So we have the same trigger, we have the same grip angle. Additional things, we have the exact same sights. There's the same slide stop. It's the same magazine release. It's in the exact same spot. The grip on the firearm is exactly the same, meaning the way I hold one gun and the way Stav holds one gun and the way we hold the other gun is the same. We don't have to change our thumbs at all. We don't have to change anything. All of that is seamless, and that's really, really great.
Talk about for a second how, because you said if you carry a Smith & Wesson, or if your home defense is a Smith & Wesson, then you should carry a Smith & Wesson if you're going to go this route. But explain how different manufacturers have a line of guns that are designed similarly, because Glocks pretty much, they all look the same. They're just bigger or smaller. But what about like Smith & Wesson?
Yeah, so just about any firearms company right now is going to make, generally when they make a firearm, the first thing they do is they make a duty style firearm. So they make a firearm for police and military, like a handgun you could see. Something that would be in a holster you would actually look at. That's usually the first pistol that comes off the assembly line. If that pistol is successful, they'll go into a subcompact version or a compact version of that firearm as well. They'll shrink it down a little bit and they'll shrink it from there. And that way they can cover a whole line. They have your concealed carry, you have your compact, which is like not quite full size, but just about there.
Like an in-betweeny.
Yeah, it's like, maybe like if you were looking at this from a military standpoint, the infantry would carry the full size, a fighter pilot would carry a compact, and then a subcompact wouldn't even really find its way into the military genre, but it would into a an undercover police officer, a person carrying for concealed carry or personal defense only. They keep shrinking the gun down, but they try to keep it relatively the same so that, it feels the same, it acts the same. A lot of the parts are interchangeable. And that allows you to very seamlessly pick up one gun and operate it well, and then pick up another gun and operate it really well at the same time. So firearms companies do this on purpose. People who buy guns and shoot them don't do it on purpose as much. I run into this all the time with my own guys all the time, where they'll ask me what they should carry off duty and all those things. And I usually tell them, well, we carry Smith & Wesson M&Ps on duty, so carry a Smith & Wesson Shield off duty. Everything's almost the same. It's very similar. And I'm a huge fan of the Shield Plus. The Smith & Wesson Shield Plus is an absolute great firearm. It has been for my police department, and it has been for Stav. Yeah, I don't even know if you could go wrong there, but that's a great, great gun. The reason why we went to the Glock 42 more recently is to not only match it up with what we already own. I mean, it costs a lot of money to now get rid of all the Glock stuff that I've been accumulating since the early 2000s when I first, was on SWAT and got this gun. Not to mention that, we have to buy 2 new full-size Smith & Wesson M&Ps, and there's a lot of parts and things that go on that. But why don't you talk a little bit about what you liked a lot about the 42, which is how we kind of got here too, because it was summer relatively recently, and that plays a big role in how you carry. So
yeah, so I can conceal the shield just fine. However, something that has led me to carry this more often recently is my new favorite way to carry is in this bag. So this bag right here, I've been showing this in a lot of my recent videos and posts because I've just been loving carrying in this bag. If you want to learn more about it, check out this video right here. But because I've been carrying in this so much, I've kind of been forced to carry the Glock 42 because my shield simply doesn't fit in here. So I found a way I like to carry that's convenient for me. I can draw fast out of it, etc. But I couldn't put my shield in here anyway. So I just started carrying the Glock 42 because it's easier to conceal in this bag and in a lot of different summer outfits because it gets hot. You're wearing fewer layers, so a smaller gun is obviously easier to conceal.
Something else that is noticeable, you can get used to it, but it's very noticeable, is the weight. The Glock 42 is the smallest, lightest. It's about 10, 11 ounces lighter than a Smith & Wesson Shield Plus when fully loaded. So it's quite a bit lighter. You can feel that on your body. I can feel it on my hip. You can feel it in the bag. So that's something to think about as well as the amount of weight. But it's nice to think that you never have to switch your gun. So if you have the smallest, lightest gun, that's actually a shooter. I should have said that before. It's the smallest, lightest firearm. I could shoot extremely well with this gun. I could take this to a tactical class, and other than making more magazine changes, there would be I can absolutely get it done with that handgun. So it's a real good shooter, which is very rare in such a small package.
And it's comfortable to shoot too. It's a fun gun to shoot.
Yeah, and you know what, that was one other point that I wanted to make when we were talking about this is recoil impulse. Because we were talking about triggers, talking about grip angles, slide stops, sights, magazine releases, all these things being almost exactly compatible. Yeah. But one thing that really changes, even when you go from full size to compact to subcompact in the exact same line, is recoil. So if we had a Glock 43, which is a 9mm, and this is a 9mm, would they be as compatible as a 380 in a 9mm? And I say they're not. Because this gun is small and light. When you put a reduced power cartridge in it, it has a very, very similar recoil impulse to this. So when you're shooting these side by side, the amount of speed that you can shoot, how fast your split times can be from one shot to the next shot, they're very, very similar because as you're shooting, and this has a flashlight on and everything, so 9mm definitely has more recoil than a 380, but they both handle almost exactly the same. In fact, when we were shooting these at the range, which you're going to add that footage in there, I asked Stav which gun recoiled more. She thought the Glock 42 recoiled more, and I thought the Glock 34 recoiled more. So they're so close that we're in disagreement as to which one recoils more. So it's yet another thing that matches up really well. When you pick up the Glock 34 the way we have it outfitted, or you pick up the Glock 42 the way we have it outfitted, and you pull the trigger, the weight of the trigger is going to be the same, the distance is going to be the same, the angle of the grip is going to be the same, the recoil impulse is going to be really close, the trigger reset is going to be the same. one has a lot more bullets than the other, but if you have to reload, the magazine releases are in the exact same spot, the slide stops are in the exact same spot, and the sights on all 4 of our guns, both our 42s and both our 34s, are the exact same sights, same color, same everything. So whichever one of these 4 you pick up should be almost exactly the same. Under stress, that type of stuff matters, and I think that it's a really good idea to match your home defense gun and your concealed carry gun in the best way you can.
This is not to say that you have to have 2 separate guns, right? You don't have to have a concealed carry gun and a home defense gun. Say, for example, I carried a shield and I shot the shield really, really well, consistently. That could be both my carry gun and my home defense gun. But if you're gonna be carrying a smaller gun that maybe has less capacity, like the Glock 42. If I want more capacity in my home, I might want a larger gun. It also allows you to add a flashlight and things like that that you might not carry on your carry gun. So if you do choose to have 2 guns, I think that's the main point here, is try to match them up as best as you can.
And tying into that, if you can have 1 gun, and you can get everything done with 1 gun, that's the best way to do it. And
best case scenario.
Oh man, that would be like, you'd always have the same gun. And maybe even buying 2 of the exact same gun, just because you know how things get in the house and upstairs and down.
One there, one there.
It's true, yeah. In a safe way, always keep them in a safe, but
lock them up.
Get to them fast, but lock them up. But if you can find a firearm that can do everything and it's just 1 gun, that's great. Smith & Wesson Shield is a perfect example. You could easily just have that gun and do like everything. The SIG 365, that'd be another great type of gun all around, like do everything gun. The Hellcat, you know, that the Springfield Armory Hellcat, like those firearms, the 43X, the 43, maybe the Glock 43, the 43X, or even the 48. Those are like do everything guns.
As long as you shoot them well.
As long as you shoot them well, that's and you can carry them well. So if you can do that, if you're willing to do that, great. If you find yourself liking that small, lightweight concealed carry gun, but you want a little bit something more at home, that's really what we're talking about here. But if you can get away with having 1 gun that does everything, that is without question the best way to do it.
Well guys, we hope that was helpful for you and maybe answered some questions you might have, especially about us switching our carry guns recently. If you want to get more comfortable with your gun, or you want to start carrying a gun, you're just not ready yet, we have an online school, the She Equips Herself School, with 2 online courses right now that are open for enrollment. You do them all on your own time. They're designed to get you comfortable with concealed carry. And then also we have a live fire course that gets you to the range, tells you exactly what to practice, shows you how to do it and all that. So make sure you check that out in the description below, and we'll see you in the next video. Stay safe. Bye!